And today I'm sitting here above Lyttelton Harbour and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what it was really like for the first 4 ships to travel all the way from England to New Zealand back in 1850. Well, let's find out. Imagine London in the 1850s and St Paul's Cathedral is the place to be, and a bunch of pioneers are gearing up for something really, really huge. They're all smiles and laughing and having a really, really good time, but none of them realise the adventure that's just waiting around the corner for them. They're about to kick off on the ultimate adventure, the Canterbury Association's life-changing ride to New Zealand. And remember, half of them have never even heard of New Zealand before. With a leap of faith, they're off on an adventure. But what was the Canterbury Association anyway? Imagine the vibrant streets of London, 1848, and we've got 2 trailblazers. One guy by the name of Edward Gibbon Wakefield, and the other guy was called John Robert Godley. They both got together and they had one single vision, to find and pioneer a new colony under the umbrella of the Church of England. These guys were really, really ambitious, and they set about forming a plan for the New Zealand Canterbury Association. And with Wakefield's experience and Godley's passion, they also managed to capture the imagination of the Archbishop of Canterbury. And also they had other influential people like clergymen and people from high society. So they set their sights on new horizons, a promised land called New Zealand, where they envisioned a haven that they named Canterbury, placing homage to the Archbishop, of course. And then they'd build a vibrant city that they'd christen by the name of Christchurch. And of course that was a tribute to Godley's posh schooling days. So let's go back to London Harbour, September 1850, where excitement hangs in the air like a morning misty fog. Can you imagine it, guys? Can you imagine it? 1850. So we've got the fog rolling down on the harbour and no one knows where the hell we're going. And as we look out onto the harbour, we see 4 wooden sailing ships, ready to take the immigrants and the colonists to the new world. The first ship is the Randolph, the second ship is the Cressy, and the third ship is the Sir George Seymour. And last but not least, we've got the Charlotte Jane. And they're all sitting there waiting to be boarded, leading the pioneers to the total unknown. Because we're talking about the 1850s, there was a huge class distinction, my friends. We got 2 different classes of pioneers on these ships. We got the colonialists on one side and the immigrants on the other. And trust me, it's like you got the VIPs on one side compared to the cheap seats. Alright, so now let us dive deeper into the Canterbury Dream team. The colonialists are like the high rollers, the cream of the crop, with their eyes already set on a piece of prime New Zealand real estate. They weren't your everyday travellers, no way. These guys were the trailblazers, the VIPs of the voyage, and their cabins were really posh compared to anyone else. They had mahogany panelled cabins, soft candlelight flickering in the corner, and these big shots were mapping out the future of Canterbury before they even left England, over a cup of tea, or maybe they even had something a bit stronger. What do you reckon? They weren't just along for the ride, these guys were the architects of the new community and the land we call New Zealand. These were our future leaders who called the shots as soon as their boots hit the ground in Lyttelton Harbour. From day one, they were setting the tone, sketching out the foundations of a new home in a land waiting to be conquered. And you know what? They were the first drafters of Canterbury's epic tale, destined to become legends in the land that they're about to call home. Not only that, but we've still got heaps of streets named after them. Now let me tell you about the immigrants, the people that actually did all the bloody work. These guys were just normal people. They were hard-working people. They come from the farms. They were labourers. They were traders. They were shopkeepers. And you know what, guys? These guys were prepared to roll up their bloody sleeves and turn Canterbury's wilderness into a thriving community. And their voyage started in Steerage, way in the bowels of the ship. They didn't have no flash cabins like the colonists did, so the immigrants, they even had to bring their own bedding, anything that they wanted to wear on the voyage and anything else they might need. Basic food was provided by the shipping company. It consisted of ship's biscuits, salt meat, flour, rice and spuds, potatoes. And they had to cook it themselves as well in the bowels of the ship. Well, how they did that in such confined quarters was they organised themselves into groups, and then they put a big table in the middle of the steerage area that they nailed to the floor with 4 big pegs, and they used that for general eating and playing cards, playing drafts and that sort of stuff. But if you wanted to have a bit of a wash or something like that, you used to have to grab a bucket, fill it up with cold water, have your wash, and then go up on deck and then hoist the bucket of water over the side. And because they didn't have any bloody refrigeration, they also had to bring their own animals aboard. So they had cows, sheep, goats and that sort of thing. You can imagine the smells, can't you? Oh, I can almost smell it from here. It makes you feel sick. Imagine being in the steerage section of the ship. It's a bustling hive of activity. There's stuff going on all around you. Everybody's wondering what this new homeland's going to bring, or even if they're going to get there alive. But sailing to the other side of the world in the 1850s was certainly nothing like what we can do today. You took your life in your own hands, and if you made it, that was a bonus. But I'm sure they had a lot more fun in steerage than what they did in the posh cabins, because you labourers and farmers, they know how to party, right? It's a world hidden away beneath the main deck, where space is a commodity. You can almost smell the air. It's stale and damp. Single men have a bunk that's only 6.5 foot long by 2 foot wide. That's a really tight squeeze in the belly of the ship, guys. And if you're lucky enough to be married and have your wife with you, you get a bunk that's 3.5 foot wide. And you know what else they give you? They give you a canvas so you can actually have a little bit of privacy. But really, is that privacy at all? That's no privacy. So what was the actual cost of the passage from England to New Zealand in 1850? Well, the high rollers, those are the guys that had the nice flash cabins, the colonists, they shelled out a cool £42. That's about $1,400 in today's money, give or take. And that afforded them a luxury trip to New Zealand. Well, as luxury as it could be in 1850. And the intermediate passengers, the ones that are in the middle of the ship, they snagged their tickets for about £25, about 7.5 grand in today's money. While the brave souls in steerage, right down the bottom of the ship, where you got to kill your own food, they secured their spot to the new world for about £25, about 5 grand in today's money. But you know what? The passengers down below deck, the steerage passengers, they didn't always have to pay their own fare, because most of them didn't have any money anyway, and even £15 was a shitload of money for those guys. So the Canterbury Association paid for some of their tickets, but it wasn't a free ride, because they were then bonded to the Canterbury Association because they paid their fare, and they had to work for them for a period of 5 years. And by doing that, the Canterbury Association made damn sure that all the skilled labour was going to work for them and nobody else. Because once the community started to build up, then there was going to be heaps and heaps and heaps of people looking for skilled labour. So the Canterbury Association had it sorted out right from the docks in London. Just imagine 4 months on a bloody leaky boat, and your boss is drinking claret upstairs, and you're downstairs killing cows and milking goats. Talk about under the boss's thumb. So the colonialist clan division and the immigrants formed the beating heart. I mean, they did all the work. They did all the labour. Much the same as today. The bosses sit upstairs, and the poor little bloke down below, he does all the hard yakka. But whether you were the boss or whether you're a peasant, everyone had the same dream. They wanted to have a new life in this place called Canterbury, New Zealand. But hey, listen to this. This is where it gets a bit spicy. Canterbury Association, the mastermind behind this huge adventure, they just didn't have sailing ships. Oh no. They also brought a dream team on board with them. Something like a luxury liner that we have today. They brought a chaplain to sprinkle blessings. They brought a surgeon to handle high seas drama. And they also brought a school teacher for a touch of education. But not only was that to look after the passengers on the ship, that was just to set up a new colony as well. These guys were smart or what? But let's talk about the ship's doctor. He was the unsung hero. Not only did he have to try and stop people from getting bloody seasick, because you can imagine what it was like back in those days with those little boats in the big sea. I just get bilious just thinking about it. For every passenger that got off the ship alive in Littleton, the doctor would earn an extra 10 shillings. That's about 170 bucks in today's money. But wait, these bosses just didn't give their money away. There was a bit of a twist in that, a bit of a gamble you might say. For everybody lost at sea, the doctor had to cough up 20 shillings, about 340 bucks. It's like a high stakes game of life and death, turning each and every passenger into a thrilling saga of risk and reward. I mean, you're gambling with people's lives, wow. So after nearly 3 months at sea, the first 760 brave souls sighted Littleton Harbour, and they hadn't seen land for weeks and weeks and weeks. Leading the charge was the Charlotte Jane. You can almost imagine it coming into the harbour, can't you? And she docked right down there, guys, on Monday the 16th of December 1850 at 10 a.m. And hot on her heels at 3 p.m. was the Randolph come sailing into Littleton Harbour. Now that's really, really amazing. Over 3 months at sea, and they're only 3 or 4 hours apart. The third ship to arrive was the George Seymour, and that anchored at 10 a.m. the following day. So we're only talking 24 hours apart for the first 3 ships, travelling halfway around the world. I think that is pretty bloody awesome. However, the journey for the 4th ship, the Cressy, was not straightforward at all. it encountered a humongous storm near the Cape of Good Hope, and the ship's foremast, I presume that's the one right up the front, was completely snapped off. So they had to rely on lighter winds with the sails they had left, and they just kept limping towards Lyttelton, day by day by day. Then finally, on December 27th, 1850, she comes sailing into Lyttelton Harbour. And you know what, guys? It was only 14 days after the first ship arrived. So with all that trouble they had along the way, they still made it into Lyttelton Harbour. Not even a fortnight later. And that completes the saga of the first 4 ships to arrive at Lyttelton. And I think all the passengers on those ships were really, really courageous. This is the Bridal Path walk from Lyttelton to Christchurch. It was a lifeline for the early Canterbury Association settlers. It was the only way to get from Lyttelton to get your first glimpse of the Canterbury Plains, the promised land. As you walk along here, you just can't help but wonder how they even carved this out of the side of the hill in the 1850s. It's just winding and steep, and it almost goes straight up. But some of the inclines are so steep, they even had to get off their horses and stop riding. Even for the most seasoned horsemen, this track was sometimes just too much, that they couldn't even ride their horses all the way up. They had to get off their horses and lead them right up to the summit. Hence the name Bridal Path. I didn't realise that. Well, I always thought you brought your bride over here. You walked over here to the Canterbury Plains with your bride. But what does Pete know? It was leading your horse by the bridle. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video about the first 4 ships. I really enjoyed making it. Remember to like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Thanks to all those people who brought me a coffee. It's really, really awesome. Helps me get around the country a little bit. And I'll put another couple of videos either side about New Zealand for you to have a look at up the top. See you next time, guys. Bye.